We've made a few adjustments to our syntaxes and what we're going to talk about today, simply because the world seems like a slightly different place than after we were all together last. And Eric is with us. I know he'll be here in a couple minutes. I'll keep announcements brief, and we can move right into the good stuff and find out what our thoughts are, and we'll hear from Eric. The first thing I want to do, though, before that is I'm just going to give actually 1 minute. Why doesn't everybody share one good thing that's going on in the last week in the chat while we wait for everyone to load up? Because I can see there's still more people coming in. All right, yeah, Michelle, you're always a rock star for being up in the middle of the night with us. I'm so grateful that you're that committed. You guys, Michelle is always up at like 3 a.m. to be on these calls. Not sure when she does sleep, because I see her on Facebook all the time too. All right. So I have a super great announcement to make today, which is that many of the coaches that are joining us on this call are part of the last coaching certification group. So this is the first time they've joined this call. So big round of applause and welcome from the bottom of our hearts for you guys. Some of us all have been meeting once a month since even longer than I've been around, like Petra, for example. And we're really excited to have you join our bigger coaching community. This is going to be a really great impact we get to have on the planet as a team. So welcome. I'm going to, Jackie, many of you know Jackie Dumaine. She's been leading these coaches for the most part, her and Ariel. I've popped in, off and on, but certainly her and Ariel have been leading these coaches and doing an amazing job. And so Jackie, if you want to just do a quick introduction of the coaches and what you've really enjoyed, I know you've really enjoyed being part of it. Go for it.
Yeah, welcome. It's awesome to see lots of familiar faces here. And I don't think there's any better time for this merge to happen, right? This is all about creating community now. And as I've shared with you guys several times in the training, you have a community of support. And I've seen you guys be vulnerable and share your hopes and your dreams and your concerns with each other. And now you've just like doubled and tripled your community of where you can do that. So I think it's a perfect time. Welcome to the official WildFit Coaches group. And we all look forward to really watching you guys all grow on this journey, there's incredible opportunity here, which we'll chat about today as well. So welcome.
Welcome, good. Jackie and I have a bit of an announcement at the end of this call with some enhancements we made to the program overall and how we shared first with these new coaches, these enhancements. And for all of the existing coaches, we've got a bit of an announcement at the end of the call, but we can talk about that at the end. With that, I think that, Eric, are you on? I actually don't see Eric's camera on. With that, I'd like to turn this over to Eric. And
I'm here.
There you go, you're here, off you go. Yeah, it's because I have two screens, that's why. Good
Hello.
stuff. All right, with that, I'm going to turn this over to Eric.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Wow, where to begin? Here's one of my favorite questions. How many of you would just like to go back to the problems of last month? Anyone? Anyone want to just go back to the problems of last month? So I've so far met one person. I've met one person whose life has been dramatically improved by this situation, really, truly. Their life was a coaching client, and he was describing what was going on in his life, and like the bank was foreclosing and he'd just gone through bankruptcy, and all of a sudden the bank can't take his house and he can live at the house and he gets to rebuild his life for the next 3 months, and the bank can't do anything about it. But for the rest of us, I'd rather go back to the troubles of a month ago. But here's another question I have for you. I really want to know, are any of you this is kind of an interesting thing, but are any of you kind of having fun a little and sometimes enjoying a little about this change of your life and being at home? And then do any of you have a little bit of a sense of enjoyment and then sometimes feel just a little guilty about that? Is anybody having that? Yeah. How about this? How many of you feel like your life after this, no matter how how different the world is, let's imagine the world just went right back the way it was, which frankly it shouldn't, but let's say it did. How many of you feel like you would be patently different after this, that you would live differently? Isn't this interesting? So this is a time of incredible transformation. So I wanted to address a couple things about, you know, what we need to do going forward at this point, and the role that that I want to play, and that I believe that our community should play, and you as kind of officers of the community should be playing. The main thing I'm aiming to do is to spread calm. I just want to make calm go viral. It's like I want to just spread calm, empowerment, common sense, inspiration to people about how to survive these times. And so I want to share with you that I've been recording episodes and interviewing experts on different things. Hey, how about this? Anybody curious about parenting in this situation? You know, like, well, I interviewed both Shelley Lefko and Dr. Shafali, and I'll be releasing those episodes very soon about parenting in crisis. And then how about anybody curious about how to manage relationship when you're all cooped up in the same house? Apparently the divorce numbers have spiked like crazy in China. And so I'm interviewing Bruce Music from Love at First Fight and John Gray from Men Are Mars and Men Are from Mars and Women Are from Venus. So I'm doing the best I can to go and get really great content. Good news about that part of that is that it gives you really good content, and it gives WildFit really good credibility that we're out here, you know, getting all this information for people. And so this is a great example that you can do to, you know, what I'm saying is you can go out and share this content with people and get them feeling like, yes, we're giving to them. And the other thing is really, like, when we upload those videos, feel free to repurpose them however you like. If you want to take the video and edit it and put yourself in front of it, I don't give a damn. I just want the information out there. Does that make sense? All right. Now, you guys as coaches, the world has changed. You know, the world has changed. And some of you probably feel like nobody will ever buy anything ever again. And some of you are probably thinking that there is opportunity in all this. And I just want to share with you that we, you know, obviously all of our live events are canceled or in question. We've canceled, I think now we've canceled everything up to, actually there's still one event that's not officially canceled in May, but in practical terms, it's done. You know, in Europe, it's just not our event to cancel, it's the promoters. But our events, we've had to do that. And one of the things that we did relative to that was, you know, many of you will have seen, we had a webinar on how to construct presentations, which is, by the way, even more important now than it ever was before, because one of the greatest ways to have influence and add value to people is be comfortable talking on camera, be a comfortable public speaker in front of an audience or in front of a camera. And so we did this webinar, and originally the intention of that webinar was to add a lot of value and to attract people that might want to come to our 5-day Speaking Academy bootcamp. But I suddenly was like, and honestly, I really believe that our team thought I was being reactionary when I said, I don't think those events are going to happen, because you know what was hysterical 2 weeks ago is common sense today, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't it funny what the definition, there's this weird like spectrum. Hysterical is at one end and denial is at the other end. There are still people in denial. There are still people doing spring break in Florida, the boneheads. I don't know, talk about it. But then there's also, you know, this balance between those things, but it changes. When I saw Tim Ferriss say to the mayor of Austin, you should cancel South by Southwest 3 weeks ago, I thought he was being hysterical. He was not. He was right. And so when I went to our team and said, I don't think these events are going to happen, I think maybe some people thought I was being a bit hysterical, but we rejigged the webinar, and instead we offered something that I was designing for release next year, a 3-day online boot camp on speech writing, on how to put talks together and make them, you know, make them engaging and all that kind of stuff. We moved it forward, offered that webinar. We only had, we limited it to 100 people because I want to be able to help everybody properly. And it sold out, bam. All right. Like, so what I'm saying to you is there are people out there that are still wanting to invest in themselves. They're still wanting to improve things. Not everybody's incomes have been completely obliterated by this. And many countries are now like Canada, for example, is starting a rollout to actually provide various forms of funding to their citizens in a variety of ways, including small business loans, including expanding the unemployment insurance windows, and in fact, just disseminating money to people. So what I'm saying to you is that there is still an opportunity to go out there and help people, but it will be very different than it ever was before. You might need to scholarship people at times because they just don't have it. You might make a decision about whether that's okay with you or not. You may want to offer discounts at times when you feel that there's you know, when you feel there's a real financial crunch for somebody. You might want to offer to do a whole family and treat them as a single person. You want to be flexible at this point. I still believe that we have a responsibility And our responsibility is just as important in flattening the curve and dealing with recovery as any of the CDC requirements. And that is, we want to help people improve their relationship with food in their bodies so that their immune systems are as strong as possible. Now, I want to take some questions or observations from you guys, but I want to offer two things before that. Some of you have been asking, what should we do with the first 2 weeks of the program? Because like we're making them eat all this garbage when really we want them to boost their immune system. Here's my current answer. That may change in time. Here's my current answer. I don't care. They went and bought that stuff. If they have it in the house, get them to eat it anyway and get them to learn about it. Because if you can get them to learn about it and break their habits with that food now, you will change their lives forever. The fact is that most of them are in some form of social distancing or actual quarantine at this point. So they're not really at risk of getting exposed anyway. So you may as well let them do the first 2 weeks of the program normally. Now, if any of your clients are first responders, if you know they're like working in the ER rooms and that kind of stuff, frankly, they're not going to do the program because they're barely sleeping and they're in the ER room. So I wouldn't worry about it. But if you believe that somebody is really high risk of exposure, you might not want them to go through that first 2 weeks. I don't think it's going to, I think that for the improvement you're going to give their immune system by week 3, whatever you stress their immune system in week 1 and 2, I think is probably worth it. That's my current answer. I will tell you guys, I am seriously contemplating doing a worldwide, like open the gates and I do a complete like challenge for everybody but not with the videos, like just me speaking the way I did the original challenges, because then I'll change the first 2 weeks. If I feel like that's what needs to happen, I may well do that. And we'll work with you guys to figure out a way to do that, where you can bring your clients in and serve them in small groups while I'm running these classes every day or every week. This is a dream and an idea. Don't ever say Eric said he was going to do this. I'm saying I'm contemplating doing that. For now, stick with the first 2 weeks as they are. Secondly, please remember, your clients, any clients you have going through the challenge now or that start soon or whatever, they are going to, in all likelihood, some of them, experience some form of cleansing, keto flu type stuff in weeks 6, 7, and 8. It is so important. I want you to remember this. It is so important that you mention that to them in advance. It's very different to say to somebody, oh, by the way, in week 6 or 7, you're going to get a runny nose maybe, and you might have a little bit of a cleansing reaction. It might even feel like a low-grade flu. That's different than they get the flu and they're on the panic with you. Oh my God, I've got the coronavirus. And now you have to go, no, it's probably not. That's different, right? You're having to deal with reaction. If you inoculate them mentally first by telling them that that's going to happen, when it happens, not only will they not have the same level of freak out, but they'll also see it as progress. That's why you see me do that in all the classes. That's why we talk about it so much in the training. When you tell people in advance, you might get a bit of a skin rash. You might get a little bit of a cleansing reaction. You might have some low energy. When you tell people that stuff in advance, when it happens, it feels like progress. If you forget to tell them about that stuff, then it feels like a problem. Does this make sense? All right. So before I jump in, I don't even know what kind of questions or thoughts or anything you guys want to share. Before I jump into that, the last thing I just wanted to touch on is I really believe that this situation is going to change our way of life on some level of permanent. There's no question in my mind about that. I think we can all agree that even 9/11, which really is, you know, these may be insensitive words, but compared to this in terms of its global impact, insignificant compared to this. In fact, I would put to you that no event has been this significant on Earth since World War II. And so life will be different when it's over. And what we want to do, I think, is we want to maintain a real voice of reason. We want to maintain a real voice of empowerment. We want to be the people that people, you know, that your fans and your clients and the people that follow you on social media, that they see you as a voice of stability that helped them get through this time. And so how do you do that? Well, one of the things is, don't spread conspiracy theory rubbish. Just don't, you know, like there's all this stuff out there about it's a man-made virus. I will tell you, I saw a very credible report by a professor of virology, immunology. He said, absolutely, he's examined this thing down to the DNA or the RNA, obviously, down to the like particular level. And he says, it's absolutely, there's nothing to demonstrate that this is man-made. And what I'm getting at is that those types of rumors aren't going to help. I mean, let's just pretend for a minute it is some kind of man-made like thing. What difference does that make? We still have to eat and we still have to live. It doesn't really matter. If this is some weird deep state thing, it doesn't really matter right now. It's not like we can rise up against it. Where we are right now is we're here to have fun and enjoy our lives as best we can in this situation. I want to remind you that Viktor Frankl, for those of you who are not familiar with Viktor Frankl, I would suggest this is a very good time to read his book, Man's Search for Meaning. It should be the book of this. That is the official book of the coronavirus as far as I'm concerned. The official movie of the coronavirus is Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman, just so you know. And I know some of you think, why would you watch that? Remember, they win at the end. So in any event, I guess what I'm really trying to get at is things will be different. And if you are the voice of calm and reason and not jumping on every, hoax, conspiracy, 5G, blah, blah, blah theory, then, and providing people with real common sense advice, and not just about food, but if you're sharing with people cool ideas of the things they can do with their kids, and, if you're sharing ideas about cooking, and if you're sharing ideas about games they can play as a family, if you're sharing ideas that make this situation better for people, they're going to remember you for that. And when we come out of this, you're going to be that person they're going to go back to. And, Andrea put this really well, like right out of, if any of you have been to our speaking academy, and I think we talk about this in coaching training, but one of the things that's really key about marketing is if you want somebody to remember something, you have to make them feel. If you want to make somebody remember something, you have to make them feel. Emotion is the glue that causes memories to anchor into into your mind, like to stay. So if something happens and you don't really emote, you don't have any emotional response, you won't remember it. But if something happens and you have an emotional response, you're much more likely to remember it. For example, how many of you remember where you were when you first heard of 9/11? How many of you remember where you were, right? Like, where were you 40 minutes before that? I don't know. But I know where I was then. I can tell you I was in a car driving through the countryside in England, and the guy came on the radio, and no kidding, this is what he said. We have heard that a light aircraft has slammed into one of the World Trade Center buildings, and it is believed that 3 people are dead. That was the announcement I heard. That's how far off base the news was when that broke. But imagine that I remember that so clearly ever since. Why? There was an emotion. Well, people are experiencing heightened emotion all the time right now. And so if you are the voice of reason, if you give them information, if you help them with their relationship with food, if you make this better for them, the heightened level of emotion they have, they will remember you forever. Does this make sense? So this is the kind of, general stuff that I wanted to drop out to you. And now I want to kind of go to like a little town hall-ish style, meeting. Like I'm open to any feedback or questions you guys have, or any wins you've had, or anything that you think is going to add value. And I don't know how we're going to curate. I think probably, you know what? Yeah, we'll just go with hand raising, and I'll just moderate myself. How about that? So, Noor, you are up.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello. Yes. Just before joining the call, I was talking to my son who's studying abroad in US in Florida, and I told him I have to go because I have a call with Eric, and he told me, "Do you speak directly to Eric?" I told him yes, and he said, "Please tell him that I love him." And I wrote 3 assignments in the university about WildFit. So I did WildFit in Feb 2018, and since then, I've been living WildFit, and my entire family is living it with me. So thank you for that, Eric. My question is actually 3 or 4 days ago, I received a phone call from my cousin. She told me she is severely ill. She has problem with her digestion system, and there is a kind of suspicion she might have cancer. And she called me because she saw how I changed since February 2018. And she told me, "I know you will be able to help me." Now, my cousin doesn't speak English, and I know she cannot afford the course or the program. But I told her that I will help her to change the way she lives, the way she eats, and I will be coaching her over phone, giving her videos. Any specific advice you can give me, Eric, to help my cousin get out of this?
You know, the first thing we have to really be clear about is, you know, while I believe that any injury or any disease is, that it is easier to heal and recover from any injury or any disease when you have full hydration, nutrition, rest, and all that stuff. I really believe that. We do have to be really cautious about, this is not a medical program and it's not here to cure cancer.
I know.
Do I believe
I
that
know.
somebody's ability to fight cancer will be improved by doing this? I absolutely believe that. And I doubt any doctor or lawyer for that matter would disagree with that general idea. So with that in mind, what I would suggest to you is you don't make any major promises. You're really clear that what you're doing is doing the best you can to supplement whatever forms of treatment, whatever other things that they're doing. You're just saying, no matter what you're doing, whether you go for traditional like cancer therapy and chemo, or whether you go for some other alternate thing, whatever you do for treatment, getting your relationship with food and nutrition, hydration, rest, and sunlight is absolutely crucial. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
absolutely.
if you're really clear about that, then you're setting expectations correctly. Then here's what I want to offer you. Before WildFit started getting translated to other languages, we have had people try to kind of do, because we didn't have it, they've tried to kind of teach classes in the other languages. And what I want to suggest to you is there are a number of reasons that WildFit works as well as it does. And some of them have to do with the interesting psychological processes that we developed. Some of them have to do with the nutritional realities that we introduced. Those things are there. But I will tell you that one of the things is my delivery style. And I say that with a lack of, I mean, you know, excuse the hubris, but I get that there's something about the way I present that stuff that, you know, that people like come right to us after week 13 when I go, and I won't see you next week, and they're upset that the videos are over, right? What I want to share with you right now is how you can do that.
Yes, please.
What I really want you to do is I want you to go back and watch some of the videos fresh for yourself. And then I want you to take a look at, do I appear to be acting? Do I appear to be pushing myself? Do I appear to be, is there anything false about me? And I think what you'll find is that all you're seeing is me, that I'm just being me. And what the difference is that I've given myself the permission to be all of me. And many of us in various cultures around the world with different education systems and weird parents and all that kind of stuff have learned to govern who we are, have learned to only use this much vocal range and or not move our bodies so much when we talk. But the truth is, if you really look at the videos of me, when I get all animated, you'll notice that I'm just naturally me, but you'll also notice something else if you look, and you might not have noticed it till I say it now, but to a degree, I kind of look like an excited teenager. Because guess what? Or even younger, because kids, that's how they do it. They talk like this. In fact, in our speaking academy, I hate giving away one of my most valuable exercises in the speaking academy, but I'll give it away right now. I will have somebody on stage and they're doing this. I'm doing my presentation right now and I'm giving it in my Toastmasters adult voice, right? Like that's what happens. Then I say to them one thing, Noor, I say one thing to them. Okay, now act like the audience is all 9-year-olds. And then suddenly they do this. They go, oh, 9-year-olds. Hi, boys and girls. I'm here to, and they suddenly change. They become human beings again. And so what I want you to do is I want you to tap into that, because it is that use of vocal range and the body and the good storytelling that really conveys it. And so if you can try to tap into that, you're going to make the whole thing easier for her to be able to stay with you. If you simply do this, like there's my video, and you go, what Eric just said was that you should be eating these things only on an empty stomach because, you know, and I know you wouldn't have done that, but what I'm saying is on the spectrum where that's one extreme and Jim Carrey's the other extreme, you want to be closer to the Jim Carrey side, not out of your personality, but in your personality. Does this make sense?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely, Eric. And actually the plan is I will not share with her videos, but voice notes over WhatsApp with the enhancement written in a text. And I will be checking on her on coaching call every week.
Sounds good.
So,
I really want to hear your progress. And by the way, I imagine you're taking her on pro bono, like you're not charging her because you said she didn't have the money, right?
Zero. Yes.
Guys, I have full respect for doing that. And I want to offer 2 quick thoughts before I go to the next person. Here's one of the thoughts. I will tell you that the completion rate, my experience, the completion rate for WildFit goes down from about 85% to 50% when people don't pay.
I know
That's just the reality of it. Now, have I still done that? Yes. In fact, many of you wouldn't even know about WildFit if I didn't do that. I'll tell you why. When I first started WildFit, my very first class was 8 free people. Now, I got all 8 of them to finish, right? But it was 8 free people. Then I did another class of 8 free people. Then I started selling classes. But when I wanted to test it on like influencers and get the word out there, I'm a member of the Transformational Leadership Council, which is a private mastermind of speakers and authors where they filmed the movie, most of the movie, The Secret. So it's Jack Canfield, John Gray, Marianne Williamson, and a variety of people. And so I offered free classes to my TLC brethren. And you know what? 50% completion rate. But in those 50% completion rates were people like Vishen Lakhiani, who completely transformed his body and introduced WildFit to the world. So I'm not saying don't offer free classes. I'm saying that when you offer them, what you want to try to do is tie the person in. So once we realized that people weren't completing the programs, I made a new pledge that if they wanted to do the program, they had to sign a pledge that if they didn't finish the program, that they had to make a donation equal to the cost, $1,500 of doing the program. And they had to make a donation too. And then, of course, I knew which way they leant, whether they were right or left. This was during the Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton campaign. And if they were Republicans, I said that if they didn't finish the program, they had to donate $1,500 to Hillary Clinton. And if they were Democrats, they had to give $1,500 to Donald Trump. And man, did that work. They were like, I am not giving money to that man or that woman. It was whatever side they were on. So I think it's really nice if you are going to do pro bono work that you do the very best you can to fully invest them, even if money isn't the thing. And in coaching, by the way, there's a principle around this that there often needs to be some kind of a challenge. It's almost like the old wise man up on the, up on the mountain. And it's like you have to brave your way up to the mountain to even get the coaching. And then you finally get up to the top and the brave man, or sorry, the old wise man gives you these sage words of advice. Here's the deal. Those sage words of advice are more valuable at the top of the mountain than they were at the bottom. Do you know why? Because you walked up the mountain to get them. If he offered you those same words down at the base of the mountain, you're like, they're just words. I could have got that from a fortune cookie. But if you walked up the mountain, blood, sweat, and tears, all of a sudden the advice is sage, practical advice that you're a lot more inclined to use in your life. So Nora, I want you to think a little bit about that. How do you create that buy-in and that commitment? Because remember, it will not always be easy for them.
I know.
Cool?
I know. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Nora. All right, who's up? Leslie, I got you.
Hey.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm in week 3 of my first coaching call, and thank God everybody was so excited to give up sugar. I was like, perfect timing. So, had 2 very nervous about it because very addicted. But we met Monday, and Monday for us was the day that we were told, quarantine. And so it was an emotional call, and we did well, and everybody was still gung ho. And then they're like, I said, well, we're only supposed to meet Monday and Friday this week, but we can throw in a Wednesday since we're all at home now. So we did. And I said, let's just, have a chat in community. And we talked, I think I have about 7 people on that call, and we were over an hour, cry. And it was a beautiful thing of sharing and community and just working through relationships and being at home. So I'm so excited. I said how lucky we are to be doing this program right now. And then my daughter came up yesterday. They're doing physical education, PE online. So they're teaching nutrition, right? She is furious at the nutrition guidelines.
Because they're not actually teaching nutrition?
No, she's like, Mom, look, they want us to drink milk, a glass a day for calcium. And I was like, well, why don't you put some of that together and we'll see what we can do. So it is not nutrition at all. But anyway, thank you again. I'm having a ball with my program. I'm not going to let this, put me down, because I believe people need it here in Louisiana very much. So all our festivals and everything that we do, of course, just like everybody else, food festivals and fairs and everything. So it'll be a different world right now.
You know, Leslie, that whole part of the world, that whole part of America, I mean, every state's got their issues. There's no question about it. But you in Louisiana and in that whole southern area, there is such an unhealthy relationship with fat. And by the way, guys, I'm not vilifying fat. I love fat. It's the wrong kinds they're using, right? And sugar and all that kind of stuff. So Leslie, you're doing super important work. Here's something else for you and everybody else to think about. I really want to suggest to all of you, this is not just as a WildFit coach, this is a human being. Journal. Journal now. Journal now. This is not like 9/11 where it happened for a few weeks. You know, I remember what happened. I had signed a big contract. I'd been doing a year of commuting between England and America. So every 2 weeks I was flying from England to America during that time. And then suddenly 9/11 happened and I canceled the contract. I didn't want to fly anymore. Even though the planes were back in the air, I didn't want to fly anymore. And you know what was really weird? I was just about ready to fly and I actually was in Las Vegas. Then I had to fly home. And then another plane went down in Queens. I don't know if you guys all remember that, but a couple of weeks after 9/11, another plane went down in Queens in New York. And I remember all these things because my emotions were heightened. But the reality is it all happened over the space of about, 3 weeks or so. This, I will tell you right now, this is months. I don't like, and by the way, that's a really important thing to know. And I don't know what this means, but we're talking about likely months, right? And so when we go through this and we journal and we keep the experiences of it, what you are developing, particularly relative to being a coach, is great stories. Leslie is going to be able to, a year from now, go, I know you're struggling with the sugar. Like, Leslie, remember this moment. She's going to be talking to a class a year and a half from now. And they're going to be, and she's going, all right, guys. And this week we're giving up refined sugar. And people are going, whoo! And you go, you know what's really crazy about that? When I did my very first class, my very, very first class as a WildFit coach, week 3 was the week that the coronavirus epidemic really blew up. And you know what was really crazy? Everybody wanted to give up sugar then because they really wanted to support their immune systems. Now, that whole situation might be over, but don't you want to support your immune system too? Or do we need to give you more reasons? You know, like you have this, like, you're going to be able to draw from coaching from the toughest environment, and you're going to be able to bring that into your practice. You are adding richness to your experience. So I highly recommend that you journal generally about your life, and particularly journal about any classes you're teaching. So Leslie, I would keep notes from every class you do because you're going to learn so much, and it'll really stretch you as a coach. So I'm super glad you're on the team, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
By the way, I will gently say this, and I don't want to create a ton of work here, but Andrea, I'd love to find a way where anybody who has active classes that are going on right now, I'd like to find a way where they could publish the Zoom links for those where I can get at them. Like, you know what? I can make it really easy. I'm going to make it really easy. And by the way, guys, when I do spontaneous stuff like this, I'm apparently supposed to put money in the jar at the company, but I'm not allowed to go there. So now I don't have to. But but here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm putting my Gmail address, and don't think for a minute that you'll ever be able to email me there because I don't use it for email. You'll just get a bounce back, but it is my calendar. And so if you have active classes at the moment, then I want you, if you create a calendar record in the correct time zone and you invite me to it and put the Zoom link in it, where possible, if I happen to have the moment, I might jump in on the classes. So if you have an active class, then you create a record you create an appointment in Google Calendar. You set it correctly to the time zone. Don't just put the time in for where you are. Actually manually put it to the right time zone, because then it'll make sure that it's the right time zone for me. And so make sure it's correct time zone, then invite me to it with my Gmail address, and then put the Zoom link directly in the record. That means it'll show up in my calendar. And if I've got gaps, because guess what, guys, I'm at home, and I don't know if you guys know this, but my family is not here. They are on a 400-acre compound in Georgia somewhere, which on one side makes me feel very good because they're with a very wealthy, successful survivalist friend of mine who has months of food and horses, dogs, and guns, and they're safe. And on the other hand, it's also where they filmed The Walking Dead, which kind of creeps me out a little bit. But anyway, so yeah, please put that in. If I can support you guys, I will. You too, Leslie. I'd love to jump in on your class.
What time zone are you in? I'm gonna
What's
ask.
that?
What time zone are you in?
No. What I'm saying is in Google Calendar, you can just put appointments in on your local time, but it's more robust. Like say what are you? You're
I'm Central.
Central. So just manually tell it Central. Don't just put your time in. Manually tell it Central in the Google Calendar. And that just to be sure that it locks and shows up in mine. I am on Eastern Daylight Time, so I'm on New York time.
Thank you.
Andrea, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Hey, yeah. No, yeah, isn't that convenient? No, this is a great idea, actually. I just want to offer you all a little bit of advice if you'd like Eric to show up on the call. The more context he has going into the call, the better he's going to be. So if you want to make this really easy for Eric and the most amazing experience for your clients, this is how you do it. In fact, I'm going to just share my screen so you guys can see exactly what I mean, because I want you all to understand kind of what our experience is on the other side. Hang on, I got to make sure. We live pretty open lives as a team. Literally, this is what my calendar and my day looks like. So, and I've got multiple people that I'm managing. So if you want to add it, what you do is go here and add it in this place right here where you can add a description. This is where you want to put Zoom link here. Okay, so that it's easy for Eric. And underneath, in as bullet point as you can, put a couple notes so Eric can look like he shows up having known everything about your class already. What week you're in, how many people are in the class, what primary issues you're facing. And here's the real trick. Keep it to like 2 or 3 words. Eric's really smart. We all are. I know that. You can just go week 6, 12 people in the class, really struggling in spring, or whatever your big challenge is. And he can show up and really add value for you.
And if you have a particular acute situation with any one client, it's always useful to put, just like a 1-line sentence about what's going on with that client. I'll tell you what, nothing blows their mind more than I show up on the class and know a little bit about them and can help them directly.
So like this, you go like this, Sarah's dog just died, right? Or whatever is going on, or Sarah has trouble smoking, whatever, just put it in there so that he can get it. That makes it easy for Eric, so that, he can show up. And the more you do this, the more likely he might show up on one of your calls. Got it? Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Cool. Thanks very much, Leslie. Super nice to hear from you. Who else? Ginny.
Hello, Eric.
Hey, Ginny.
My question is about, it's mostly about marketing. So Dr. Anke, who's also on this call right now, she's a hematologist at a hospital in Belgium, and she works with cancer patients. And her and I were lucky enough to meet each other during the coaching training. And so we've partnered to offer WildFit to people who are cancer survivors, so who have finished going through treatments. And we're super excited and confident that with our mix of skills, we can really support these people. But we're struggling with getting the word out and getting people signed up. So I'm wondering if you have any tips.
Well, you're struggling with getting the word out and getting people signed up. So let me try and understand. Are you talking about cancer survivors that you know who they are, or are you talking about generally the market of cancer survivors?
Generally the market of cancer survivors.
So Ginny, I think I have to offer this disclaimer first. You got to be a little careful. And what I mean by careful is that cancer is one of the hot buttons in the United States. And if you start offering classes that are like relative to treating cancer in a sense, even cancer survivors, you're going to end up on somebody's radar and they're not really going to like it. Facebook will probably stop you from advertising. Like you have to be a little bit gentle about that stuff. So one of the ways you be gentle is you're soft in the statements, a little bit like what I said to Noor. You're not talking about, this is not cancer treatment. This is basically saying, wow, if you're a cancer survivor, one of the things you probably want to do is really refine your relationship with food and focus more on the food psychology aspect of what you're doing than on the nutrition side of what you're doing, so that you just, you don't really step afoul of some of the opinions or some of the regulations that happen out there relative to cancer treatment. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfect sense.
And so I would want you to go back and listen to the thing that I said to Nora about that. I would, go back and watch this recording and listen, because basically, if you remember what I said was, we're not suggesting that WildFit is any kind of a cure or treatment for cancer or any disease for that matter. What we're saying is that the body's capacity for healing or recovering from any disease or injury is supported by having really good hydration, really good nutrition, regular sunlight, rest, movement. Those things are going to help. So that's just what we're here to help you do. And I think if you position it that way, you're going to be doing really well. So then the question is, how do you get out to them? Well, you know, you know, where are you looking at a particular geographic area?
Not necessarily. I'm in Canada. She's in Belgium.
Okay.
We can do anything.
You know, I think that some of the traditional things that you might want to do, like I would consider doing some regular writing on medium.com and regular social posting about like doing research on any evidence that you can find, which there's plenty of, that shows that where nutrition supports immune function, where nutrition supports healing and that kind of stuff. What you want to do is like turn yourself into a credible authority in that space with that particular brand. Do either of you, I'm sorry if I missed this in what you said before, either of you have like credentials in this space?
Yes, she's a doctor, a hematologist, and she works directly with cancer patients, and she's trying to change everything about how the hospital provides food to patients themselves.
Yeah, and so you know, then we, you know, that's a really good thing, because when you're dealing with cancer, the credentials, especially as a hematologist, that's really good stuff. So you know, I would take a look at writing under her name potentially on medium.com and posting stuff on social, and you then sharing it and getting it out there as well, in order to create a sense of like real like credibility in that space. We're writing about stuff, people are looking for advice. Like, you know, here's what's crazy. Our speaking academy, I shouldn't say always. It's generally been fairly easy to sell. I mean, the very first one sold out in an hour when I announced it. It was really easy to sell. But then after that, we started running 3 or 4 of them a year. And, you know, it took some effort. Ryan was out there, you know, doing sales calls and talking to people. But I'll tell you what, now it's super easy to sell. If you talk to Ryan, he'll say he's more like an order taker now than he is a salesperson with regard to that program. You know why? Mind Valley put one video of me talking about public speaking, and that made me credible in that space. And people, like, even though that video is on Mind Valley's channel and it doesn't link to me at all, it's all for Mind Valley's marketing. It goes to Mind Valley's like membership program, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. They saw me, they Google me, they come to our website, and suddenly I'm getting speaking bookings from it and people wanting to sign up for our training. So what you want to do is do the similar thing, you know, be uploading, you know, really like powerful, credible videos and articles and stuff that make you a source of information that people seek out and want to work with. The other thing is that if you guys do have success in changing food programs in hospitals, which by the way, honestly, if you really want to know the most unhealthy diet in the world, it's the hospital diet. I mean, the hospital diet is the worst diet in the world. You're talking about a food system that was derived and provided by the lowest bidder. I mean, that's basically it. The person who bid the least to feed our sick people, that's who gets to feed them. And so, you know, it's just not a good system. So if you guys have success in transforming that in a hospital, then I would go after every bit of PR that you could. Also, really important that as you do work with clients, that you collect the testimonials, and you want them very specifically in the testimonial to say, I am a cancer survivor and I feel better today than I did before I even had the cancer, assuming that that's true. And so you want to capture those testimonials, because that's going to really help you, because when you put those testimonials on your site, even though you're not making strong claims about cancer, in the testimonials where they go, I am a cancer survivor, blah, 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 that's going to help you with the Google indexing and all that kind of stuff without you having to make the claim.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric.
You're
and if
welcome.
You don't mind, I'm going to clip off the little bit in this video recording where you're talking about what you just said, because you said it so well.
Appreciate you asking. Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next? Mary.
Hi.
There you go.
Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I have a client. So my class is in week 10, and I have a client. So they're going to be going into summer. Starting Friday. So it's really close, but I have a client who she has PCOS, so she has some insulin resistance. She's had major health issues, inflammation, thyroid issues, and has a ton of food sensitivities. And so she's just been really struggling the last couple of weeks of spring with complete boredom. Like there's so few, like she can't do coconut, she can't do tomatoes, she can't, you know, I mean, it's no pork. Not that that's a huge meat that I want her to be eating, but anyway, like this. So I just wondered if you had any counsel. I'm wondering too about the last or week 12 when we take them back into spring. I'm just getting from all of them, like, I think there's so much uncertainty right now. They're all happy. I did tell them also ahead of time. Normally I wouldn't have done this, but they all just said, can you tell us what enhancements are coming on Friday so that when we get a chance to go shopping, that we can prepare for that. And so I went ahead and told them what was coming. But I don't know how they're going to react to going back into spring when they already feel so much uncertainty. So I just would love some counsel on that.
Well, one thing I'll tell you, Mary, and I'm going to tell you that I believe that of all the seasons that you want to be in, when there's a virus transporting its way around at an infectious rate of 4 times the flu, then the season that is probably best for that is either spring or winter. You know, and by the way, I was reading about this the other day, and I don't want you to go quote this to anybody unless you find your own sources for it. I do plan to write about it. But I was reading the other day that blood sugar, apparently coronaviruses, and you understand that the common cold is a coronavirus, right? The flu is a coronavirus. It just got named that way because it was a coronavirus. So, but the point is that those viruses actually really like blood sugar. They really like it. Apparently it makes the viruses grow faster and breed better. And so the higher your blood sugar numbers are, this is why, by the way, apparently this virus is incredibly hard on diabetics, and it's incredibly hard on people that are obese. So, you know, what I'm saying to you is I would want to be in spring or in winter if I felt like, I'll tell you right now where we are. We apparently only have 21 cases in the country where I am. We're very low infection currently. And 1 person has died, and that person had both hepatitis and HIV. So, you know, it's not like their immune system was particularly happy. Now, with that in mind, I'm pretty low risk for infection at the moment. Ariel, I don't know if you've heard any different numbers here in the DR, but that's what I just got today. And I've only heard of 1 potential case here in the Cabarete area. So right now I'm not in spring. There are mangoes in season, and I'm eating lots of them because I'm fattening up, because I know that when the virus explodes in this country, because you know it doubles on a 4-day basis, and this country's not likely to do social isolation very well. We're living in a country where there are people who don't turn their lights on at night because they think it saves gas mileage. There are people on motorbikes that don't turn their lights on because they think it burns more gas to do that. Like, the education level here is not super high. And they don't trust the government. Half of them trust one version of the government, half of them trust the other. Oh, that sounds a bit like America now I think about it. But the point is that they don't really trust the government. And so when the government comes along and tells them they got to socially isolate, these people are hand to mouth. They're not going to do it. They're going to be on the streets. If the virus is not mitigated by the sun, if it's not mitigated by summer, which we don't know, there's some evidence to suggest that it doesn't like the heat. There's the fact that it's ripping through Iran that suggests the heat doesn't do much about it at all. But if it explodes here, then I will convert. I will, first of all, isolate myself even further, and then I'll convert. And again, guys, I fully expect to get it eventually. I'm not even worried about it, but I want to delay that as much as possible because I don't want to spread it, and I don't want to have to go to a hospital. Does this make sense? So what I'm telling you is that when, you know, like, going into spring is not going to stop you from getting it. Going into winter is not going to stop you from getting it. It's a funny thing. The way to think about this is, going into spring or something like that doesn't actually give you the antibodies to fight the virus. What it means is that your body is better off to fight it when it comes in. That's the difference. It's not like you can like boost up your immune system and like completely stop the virus. It doesn't work like that. And matter of fact, I guarantee you, how many of you get sick a whole lot less often now than you did before you did WildFit, right? I mean, oh, let's take that clip and show it in a testimonial one day. That was really cool. But here's the kicker. I will put to you that you probably encountered just as many viruses and germs and stuff that you did before. The difference is they came in you and came out and you didn't even know you had the flu. And what I want to suggest to you is that if you want to have that experience of coronavirus, then spring and winter would be the ideal positions to be in during that. And so if people, when you're saying to them they have to go back into spring, I'm going to say a couple of things. First of all, the boredom around food thing, one big lesson that a lot of people in the world are going to get right now is they start getting like, if they start like, you know, the supply chain keeps getting messed up and people are hoard shopping and stuff like that, they're going to start realizing that food is actually just fuel. Like they're going to realize I don't get to eat what I want whenever I want. I can't go to get pizza every night. I can't go like, I feel like Thai tonight. Well, no, we don't have any Thai. So, you know, I think that this idea of food boredom, people are going to actually learn a big lesson about it. Get over it. The reasons for eating food are about energy and non-energy nutrition. That's it. The other reasons, oh, because it tastes nice, because it makes me feel good, and those are irrelevant. And so in a very real sense, when you ask them to go back into spring, I think you got to say to them, guys, like Mother Nature would have done this to you. Do you think you would have whined and complained about it then? Mother Nature would have made the seasons change and you would have been in spring. Now, and then on top of that, this is probably the single best thing you could do to support your immune system. Don't you really feel like doing that? Because frankly, unless they're incredibly underweight, I would suggest to you that you encourage them to stay in spring when they're done their challenge for now. Not deep spring, you guys understand. I'm talking just normal spring.
Well, and that's what I mean. I mean, should we encourage them to maybe keep some root vegetables in? Or like,
sure.
Especially in the case of my one client that's, you know, I just thought anyway, she just doesn't have it as, and with the supply anyway. So I just thought maybe
light spring. I mean, you know, I'm not really into measurements so much, like how many calories or whatever, but I will give you a general rule of thumb is that it's somebody who has a healthy switch that has gone through this program and kind of can switch metabolisms, like from sugar to fat. Somebody like that, they can eat upwards of 25 grams of carbs in a day and stay in spring, stay in a ketogenic state. They can do that. Now, if they've been eating carbs their whole life and they've never been in spring, then they could go in spring and then 2 grams of sugar can flick them back. But that's just sensitivity for a while. What we're talking about is once they've returned to a more healthy metabolism, in my opinion, they can get away with up to 20, 25 grams. So if they want to have some root vegetables here or there, and it's not even like they have to completely stay ketogenic. I'm just saying you want to keep your blood sugar well managed while this virus is rampaging around the world.
Okay. Thank you. That's great counsel. I appreciate it.
Thanks, that. Mary. All right. I see Michelle. Hello.
Happy birthday as well. And I just wanted to ask, I'm at the point where I was about to start a class and I've got a few people sort of sitting in the wings that have been really interested. But I've approached a few and I suspect many will be the same. We're just closed our borders at the moment and there's a few cases very close to, well, in our hometown. And so most people were doing that whole big supermarket empty shop thing, buy the toilet paper thing. And the two things that seem to be the biggest hurdle for me are the supermarkets as far as access to and people not wanting to go to the supermarket for, you know, the sake of lots of, you know, people going in and out and the high transmission of germs. And also access to food and then just money. I think a lot of people are being quite sensible and thinking about the longevity of this and going, well, how long is this going to last? So my question is, what would be your opinion as far as should we sort of carry on and offer, or do you think it's better just to be in a place of service at the moment and not actually be running a course? That's,
you know, Michelle, it really depends on the clients. And one, you know, one of the things I might consider if I were you guys is you do it. If you want to really support people and create classes, then, you know, you can do a by donation model. You can say, look, guys, this is normally X dollars, but this is difficult times and I'm here to support you, and you pay what you can, pay what you can. And I'm here for you. And if you can't pay anything, then maybe pay me when this is all over. You know, it's like, I'm just here to help you. I think you're going to have to get flexible about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the approach. I mean, guys, like I said, I'm contemplating, you know, just offering a big class to the world because I want to support everybody right now. And by the way, you know, at this point in time, that may not feel very good for your business that you'd be like giving it away for free, or that I was giving it away for free or whatever. I want you to think about this. What kind of credibility do you think you're building with people when you support them through a time like this? You know, what kind of advocates are you creating? What kind of positive vibration, paying it forward? It will pay you back dividends, in my opinion. So Michelle, I would be inclined to press forward. And if somebody says that they're worried about the money, then I would say to them, you know what? Why don't we defer the money for 3 months, and even then only pay if you can. You know, it is what it is. By the way, think about this too. When you really kicked ass on this program and you got to the end, some of you, here's interesting. How many of you did this program and when you signed up, it was like a little breathtaking to pay that amount of money for a health program? How many of you felt like that? How many of you, when you were done, are like, that was cheap? Okay. So if you know, like, and it's hard to communicate that to somebody before they buy it because they don't know that. They can't understand it because every other diet's ever failed them. Remember, guys, people don't fail diets. Diets fail people, and they've been failing them for years. So now, all of a sudden, we're in this other place. So if you were to say to somebody, Michelle, like, hey, I get that money's tight right now. Defer the payment indefinitely until you can pay.
Yeah.
There's a really good chance they're going to come to the end and go, shit, man, you changed my life. And I'm going to pay. And you know what? If they don't pay because they can't or whatever, or perspective shifts or what have you, you've helped them anyway.
Yeah. The part that doesn't
Eric?
Oh, sorry, Andrea.
Oh, Michelle, I was going to say, the other thing you could consider doing on that note is, and I've been sitting here thinking, texting with Jackie actually, thinking, you know, you could do a 2-week reset, start them there and do it for free and get them into that, because that's where people get the benefit from you in 2 weeks. You put them in the 2 weeks. You're not making a 90-day commitment necessarily to serve them for free, but put them in the 2 weeks for free right now and work them through that, or charge them a lot less for the 2 weeks. Hey, I get money's tight. Why don't you just do this? It's like $27, and then decide after 2 weeks. And then you get in that group for 2 weeks and serve, and do what WildFit does and do what you do, and then have the conversation.
Yeah. The thing I saw the other day was, thank you, Andrea, was I saw hand sanitizer on a pharmacy front desk, and it was like a finger-sized bottle for $35. And I just walked out just going, oh, it makes me sick that people are selling on fear. So I don't want to sort of buy into that mentality.
Michelle, let me handle that for you right now. This is the best way I can describe it to you. When Hurricane Katrina went ripping through the United States, New Orleans, here's what happened. A couple of teenagers bought tons and tons and tons of bottled water and drove it down there and started selling water to people. And the news channels, particularly left-leaning, and by the way, guys, you might see every now and again I weigh in on political stuff on social media, and I know it causes problems. I know I lose followers over it, but I got to speak my truth. I don't care. It is what it is. And I will tell you that I lean right when it comes to fiscal policy and entrepreneurship and business, and I lean left when it comes to social responsibility. But what I really don't like, if you really want to know my politics, extremists. The dumb nut bars that are at either end of the extreme political spectrum freak me out. And that's what happens when the press jumped on that story about these teenagers. You know, they came along and said these guys were pirates, they were profiteers, they're horrible people because they were selling water to people. You know what I want to know before I make that judgment? How much were they charging for the water? Because what I'm thinking is people needed water. And if they were going to risk their capital, their time, they're going to drive into it. By the way, during an earthquake, just after an earthquake in Jakarta in 2004, 4,500 people killed in 5 minutes. I, the next day, got in a truck and drove across the island of Java with a van full of water and rice and medical supplies. But I was wealthy enough that I could spend $5,000 on stuff and give it away. But these kids were being entrepreneurial, taking their money, buying water, bringing it down. Now, if they're charging $35 a bottle, I think we should take them out and have them shot. But if they were charging $2 a bottle, I don't have that problem. And so, Michelle, I don't have a problem at all with somebody going out of their way and sourcing stuff and making it, offering it to the people who need it. But like that guy who tried to buy up all the hand sanitizer and corner the market on hand sanitizer and then sell them on Amazon, what did Amazon and eBay do? No way. You can't sell. He ended up donating all of it. He ended up just donating all of it because so what I'm trying to say is be okay with helping people right now. And if they have the money, because plenty of people have money. There are many people who are saving money right now. That their life is cheaper now than it was before, and they still have their jobs. So what I'm saying to you is, be willing to help, and if people are in a position to be able to pay you for that help, then let them. And if they're not, then don't charge them right now or defer the payment. And make sure that the people that are paying, make sure that they know that them paying is helping you help more people. The $35 bottle of hand sanitizer is unconscionable and disgusting. But if somebody would bring one to my door right now, I'd pay $5 for it knowing it's only worth $3.
Yeah.
I bought a guitar the other day. $80. $80. He goes, but I can bring it to you. $100. I can buy the new one for $100 on Amazon, but I can't get it here. I paid him the $100 happily. So that's my take.
Thank you. And what would you do about the food side of how to access food and well, two things: how to access food and how to navigate through those first 2 weeks when you know that the food they're eating is just so non-functional.
You know, most people went out and bought inordinate amounts of junk food. That's what they did. You know, most people, hang on a second. Hold on.
And craft dinner. The craft dinner shelves are empty.
Yeah. I went into
The frozen pizza shelves.
to get the things I needed. But I just wonder if people would still go into the supermarkets the way that things are at the moment. I think most people.
Yeah, they will. They will, you know, hunger will get them there. There's no question about it. People will go. And if you want to know my protocol for going right now, I just go. I get my stuff done. I don't touch anybody. I get out. Again, I'm not afraid of the virus personally. I just don't want to be a conduit for it. You understand? And that's the big thing to understand here, guys, is that like really, and by the way, even the age things, like I see some of you are even older than me, you know, like and so here's what you want to know. I really want you to get this. The statistics about this virus are lying to us about the conditions. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I turned 50, which doubled my risk factor. So yesterday, I woke up at midnight, my risk factor doubled from the day before, statistically on paper, because the risk factor in your 30s is lower than it is in your 40s, and then it's lower than it is in your 50s, and it's lower than it is, you understand? So when I crossed over to the 50s, my risk factor doubled overnight because statistics lie. The statistics are telling us that age is the determinant factor. It is not. Physical dysfunction is the determining factor. It just happens that more older people have more physical dysfunction because frankly, our food production system is broken. And so people have been eating badly and smoking and drinking huge amounts of alcohol. And so their livers are messed up, their immune systems are screwed up, they're diabetic, they're pre-cancer or have cancer. In other words, it's not because they're old that they're susceptible to the virus, it's because they're unhealthy. You've got to watch the way the news reports stuff right now. I think I mentioned this on one of the videos, but there's a video, there was a headline about a 21-year-old man dying from coronavirus. That's designed to adrenalize you, that headline. Don't let it. It's bullshit. If you read the story, you find out that he was really sick. He had leukemia. You know, so what I'm trying to get at is if you're healthy and you're functional, the odds of this virus being a problem for you are very low. I'm not saying it can't be, I'm just saying very low. So go shopping and get food, because you know what's really dangerous? Starving to death. That's quite dangerous. You know, and so what I would say, Michelle, is if people are really concerned about it, they can put on some, you know, like gloves if they've got them. If they don't, put on a mask if they've got them. If they don't, go in there, pick up the stuff, wash their hands thoroughly before they get to their house, and get home again. And since they're going to have to shop anyway, then they may as well buy the best stuff. And by the way, many shops, I'm blown away. It's not true everywhere, I know, because I've been watching online, but many of the shops are out of frozen pizza and craft dinner and stuff, and have like produce everywhere. You know what I just bought? I just bought 100 oranges. I bought 100 oranges. Now, wait a minute now. I can't eat 100 oranges before they go bad, can I? But I can make orange juice and freeze that stuff, man. That's what I'm doing. So I'm just, Michelle, people are going to have to shop. and they're going to have to get over that. And you know, and the best protocol is don't take your kids to the store with you when you go shop if you can help it. If you're not a single parent or whatever, you gotta do the best you can.
Oh, no, thank you very much. That's interesting talking over some of those concerns. So I'll try and navigate that.
Incidentally, to Tiffany's point here, one of the reasons that it hit Italy as bad as it did, I mean, on top of apparently the Italians just not really paying attention to what was going on at the early stages, like many people weren't. The other reason is that Italy has one of the oldest populations on earth. Now, it's not just that they're old though, because I read yesterday that something like 90% of the people that have succumbed, that have actually died because of this, had really serious pre-existing health concerns. Something like 90% of them. So, you know, when you look at the percentages, right, they're saying that it's between 1 and 3% lethal, but it's like 10% lethal over 60, which means it's 0.2% lethal for most of us, which means 1 in 1,000. It's incredibly low, lower than the flu. But then if you take that 10% of the people who are 60 and you divide those people into fundamentally healthy and fundamentally unhealthy, then what you suddenly realize, it's 20% of the unhealthy and 2% of the healthy, even at that age. Now, I'm making those statistics up, but that's relatively reasonable math in my opinion. So don't be so afraid personally about it. Get out and shop, take precautions, and tell your clients, you know, they got to eat, and they got to eat the right stuff.
Cool. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Tiffany.
Hey, so
I'll convert eventually. I just, when friends of mine change their names, it just takes me a while to catch up.
I know. I got it. You're cool. I just wanted to say, you know, I went through a several month lockdown in 2018. Fortunately, I was doing WildFit at the time. And I just, for all of you coaches, I think that I just want to, you know, put in my 2 cents here of what I went through, and having that daily schedule, like really keeping to what Stephen Kotler calls your minimum viable practice. You're always doing a schedule of your self-care, not letting it go, regardless of what's happening, and going day by day with everything that's happening, the uncertainty that exists and all of that. If you can do those things, it can really benefit you. And then I just want to add, we connected with our local farmer, and we had food, a big, huge veggie bag delivered every week. We still do. We are lucky that we live in the food basket here where things are being grown, whereas on the coast, rice and beans were non-existent. Like there were food shortages in other places when the Pan American Highway was shut down, and you know, all the roads were blocked and that sort of thing. So you know, really connecting with your farmers long term is going to help all of us, because the more we can support our farmers, the more they're going to continue planting. And so I just really want to encourage people to think about that in terms of being really hyper local, knowing your neighbors, connecting with them. Don't worry about guns or bullets and all that kind of stuff. If you know the people around you and you all trust each other and you stay connected, even if it's from a distance or through a window, that level of fear is going to go way, way down, and then people don't get crazy. So I just want to add that stay sane. So we'll all get through this, and we've got the tools. It's all within us.
Good stuff. Thank you so much. Who's next? Wow, you guys are generally a more talkative bunch in my experience. It's interesting days. All right, I'll wrap up on a couple of points. The one is apparently we're having a virtual birthday party for me in about an hour. There's a Zoom link you can just join. It'll be mayhem. I don't think it'll just be kind of fun for a little bit. Please feel free. You're invited to my birthday party. That would be fun. And then, you know, listen, guys, I want to remind you of something so very important. When you produce cortisol, stress chemicals, you absolutely inhibit immune function. So you have a balance that you need to walk right now, and that is staying informed, but not allowing yourself to get stressed about it. Does this make sense? So I really want you to think about that. And I want you to think about how to find as much joy and gratitude and appreciation as you can during this time. And there's plenty of it. And again, I'll put to you that if Viktor Frankl could find moments of joy, appreciation, and gratitude in Auschwitz, you can figure it out in your living room. That's my theory, you know? And so really be there for people. One of the things I found is here, isolated in my home, all alone, I would have these moments, especially after the sun goes down and it's dark, and and all of a sudden I'm really alone. And I'd have these moments where the various things I was seeing on social media or whatever would actually get in, and I could feel the adrenaline. I could feel it. Let me tell you a couple things that happen when you start producing cortisol and adrenaline. One, your IQ is reduced measurably. Your IQ is reduced measurably. Your critical thinking is damaged because the point of adrenaline and cortisol is to put you into fight or flight subconscious behavior. The point is not to be conscious, it's to be unconscious and escape, right? So not unconscious, but subconscious. So really important to maintain as much calm and appreciation and gratitude as you can. And you know what I found really started to help for me was when I just turned to my normal tendency. And my normal tendency is to support my community. My normal tendency is to help people. So I've been helping people here locally. I've been helping people online. And I've put so much of my effort into that I don't have time to be bothered with I'm keeping an eye on the news, but what I've done is I've chosen my news sources. There are very specific people that I follow on Twitter to get a sense of what I think is really going on out there. And I basically deleted anybody on Instagram that is trying to frighten me, that is spreading rumors or publishing canned content. Some of the thought leaders that I thought were so brilliant 3 weeks ago are still publishing social media posts that they wrote 3 weeks ago. I just delete them now. If they're not here with us now in the vibration, I'm done. I'm here. I'm here to help. And I think the more that you can be, exactly right, Bob, be informed, not inundated. Choose the window where you're going to learn what you're going to learn, the window of time and the window of people you're going to learn from, then be done with it. And by the way, if anything really serious happens at this point, don't you think you're going to hear about it across your social media channels anyway? So you don't need to be going out and looking at it from the news. So I really want you to take care of your mind. It is your great asset at the moment. And with that in mind, I have been recording these episodes. I told you about the first episode is all about dealing with your physical needs to help keep your cortisol levels down and your immune system up. And I implore you guys all to share those. As soon as we start publishing these videos, please share them widely. We want to get this word out to as many people as we can. I see, oh, Jean, I see you here. Hello.
Hi, Eric.
Hello.
I'm starting my class next Monday, 23rd. Yeah, very excited about that. And I did my WildFit journey in June and finished in September. And after that, I was selected to be one of the ambassadors for Mind Valley, and I've been serving the tribes since then. I think I've served 3, 4, this is my 5th tribe. So I'm in the February large group, which has like over 1,000 people in it, and also the 17th February group. I don't know if it's appropriate to be telling you this, but we got the news that the ambassadorship program was to be cancelled. And the way that it was handled just really, it broke our hearts. Yeah, and
Dean, we're fixing it. We're fixing it. And unfortunately that all happened. We would have fixed it by now if not for the coronavirus. Like, honestly, I'm not going to get into how it happened, but in essence, what happened is that there was a blurry line between ambassadors and coaches. And what was happening is that Mind Valley we had talked with Mind Valley about providing better coaching and training to the ambassadors so that they understood what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing so that they weren't interfering with the coaching process. I am not committing to what I'm about to say. I'm telling you that roughly I believe what will happen is that the ambassador program, Andrea, just mute me if I go off the reservation too far here.
I actually, you know what, Eric, just before we got on this call, I talked to Grace. So you go ahead, but I'll just, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong anyway.
We talked about this before.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that what's going to happen is we're going to reinstate the ambassador program. We're going to create some video training for the ambassadors. We're going to also develop a Venn diagram. You understand Venn diagrams? It's like the two, and it's going to show ambassadors do this, coaches do this, and here's some of the stuff in the middle that they both do. And here's exactly how you have to sign off your messages so that you're really clear about the difference. And what we're contemplating is creating a program where ambassadors are logging time toward their coaching certification one day, you know, so they can earn a discount when they one day want to become a coach. I believe that's going to be what happens, because we don't want our coaches messing around helping them with login information and all that stuff, right? That's what ambassadors are for. But we also don't want ambassadors coaching people when they haven't been trained to do it. Andrea, did I get that right? Jean, thank you so much for the feedback. Sorry we haven't fixed it faster.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, guys, take care, you know, be safe, support your communities. I really, really recommend the idea of having some kind of daily practice that just grounds you, you know. And I also want to remind you of something. How many of you have ever said, man, I'd love to write a book if only I had time? I'd love to learn a language if I only had time. I'd love to learn an instrument if only I had time. You have time. You know what? Here's the way I want you to think about this. Imagine it's like December 31st, right? And New Year's is coming and you have all these big plans for 2020, but then all of a sudden 2020 starts and it's like, oh my God, 2020 is already here and I can't do any of my big plans. Wouldn't it be great if you could like press a pause button between December 31st and January 1st and learn a bunch of stuff and get it all in and then hit 2020 really running? Wouldn't that be great? Well, that's what we're doing. We just hit the giant pause button on 2020, and now you've got all this time. Learn to play the guitar. There are people offering free singing lessons online. You can learn languages. You can write a book. My good friend Tucker Max, who runs Scribe Media, is doing a program that they normally charge a lot of money for, totally for free, on how to write books. He has sold over 14 million books under his own name as an author, and many, many millions more because he's helped people write over 700 books. Totally for free. Go check out my Twitter feed and you'll find the link to it. Use this time to your advantage. Be an enriched and empowered person. One last thing. Your muscles need you. Your muscles need you right now. This is the ultimate time of use it or lose it, man. I know you can't get to a gym and all that kind of stuff, but I'm telling you, right now, particularly if you're female, I want you to go follow the Betty Rocker or Allison Stoner. Please tell them both I said hello. Go follow them. They're going to give you great workout stuff that you can be doing at home. I'm not saying you need to go and like really get suddenly massively fit, but what you need to do is remind your muscles that they matter. Because if you don't remind them they matter, they will atrophy and you'll have a huge uphill battle to climb at the end of all this. Thank you guys all so very much for your heart, your commitment, your passion. Let's go out there and make this whole thing easier for people than it might be otherwise. Take care, be healthy, and be safe, and come to my birthday party.
Hey guys.
Keep like protecting myself from your zone.
Hi, happy birthday, Eric.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy
birthday, dear Eric. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, that's why I didn't worry about it. But it makes it look different.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Eric.
Happy birthday.
Andrea,
So nice to see everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys. Michelle, we'll make the announcement in the group. Jackie and I will go live in the group and make an announcement.
thank you very much.
I'm waiting, guys.
Okay, bye.
Have a good one.
Leave. Leave.